And it is so far understood that the collective animates the big picture. But how big is my impact on the collective manifestation in physical reality? How quickly can I change the big picture for myself?
You're changing the big picture as an individual all the time. Whether you are aware of the changes or not, or the impact or not, is a different issue. But you have all the impact on the collective that you can possibly have. By acting on your passion, it may reveal the impact that you have, but it doesn't create more impact on the total whole. You already have a complete and total impact on the whole just by being part of it. So any change you make changes the whole, although the degree to which you experience the change may be different, may seem small, may seem big, depending upon what acting on your passion does. But it always impacts the whole, no matter to what degree. It makes a difference.
Now, this person is saying that they witnessed someone speaking on stage and heard 8 simultaneous versions speaking at the same time. Time was standing still, so I could perceive several at once. Then I chose the one that was my highest excitement. Are we all broadcasting like this all the time on multiple channels? And is that another way to talk about parallel realities?
Absolutely. What you have simply done by expanding your consciousness is increased your sensitivity to pick up on more channels all at the same time. So the idea is that this is potentially a common symptom for those who are continuing to accelerate, continuing to upgrade their vibrational frequency, and allow their senses to span multiple parallel realities simultaneously, to download information more simultaneously when your senses can handle it, when you can process it by expanding your consciousness. You might call it a mini oversoul point of view, but this is going to become more and more common. This is how we experience reality in my civilization, which is why it is like walking through a dream of multiple dimensions simultaneously. We see many multiple probabilities all at once and can more easily recognize the path that is truly ours. So we simply give you congratulations on expanding your consciousness to the point where you're experiencing the broadcast of multiple realities simultaneously that everyone is already doing, but most people are simply not aware that they're doing.
And once we decide to shift from our current reality to another more aligned with our desires, how will individuals from our previous reality perceive our change or absence? Will they notice a shift, or will their memories and perceptions adapt to a new narrative?
They might, because remember, they're your projections and reflections of the change you've made within yourself anyway. Some of them might entirely disappear from your life if they simply have no purpose in experiencing the change. Some of them might recognize the change within you and say, oh, you're different today. I'm not exactly sure why. And some of them will relate to you completely as the idea of new people as a reflection of the new change you have made within yourself. It can be a range of things.
And can you tell us how we can tap into another parallel version of ourselves? For example, to download information or knowledge about a subject, how can we consciously experience that download?
You can allow your imagination to be your guide in telling yourself a story of that particular persona that is engaged in the subject matter you find interesting. Allow yourself the free rein to see what the story of that individual would be like in all aspects of that individual's life, and mirror it as best as you possibly can, taking actions on the opportunity that synchronicity provides to match the idea of the behaviors and actions and feelings and thoughts of the individual you imagine in your story is living that kind of a life, and mirroring it as best as you possibly can. If it's not relevant for you, synchronicity will turn you around from it. If it is relevant, then you'll become, in a sense, more like that individual and experience the download of information that is relevant for the individual that you are mirroring.
And for those of us who have faced prolonged health challenges, how can we consciously tap into and align with a parallel reality where our physical health is at its optimum? Are there specific practices or mindset shifts that can assist with this transition?
Yes, by asking yourself, what is the lesson you're learning or what are you experiencing you otherwise would not have experienced by not having the health issue? By learning the lesson of why the health issue is there, you may be able to shift yourself to a parallel reality where it's no longer necessary, or perhaps more precisely, never has been necessary for that version of yourself to experience that health issue because it's not necessary for you to experience that lesson as the new individual in the new reality. But the first thing to do is to let yourself learn the lesson of why you are experiencing what you're experiencing. Again, it's not about avoidance. It's not about running away from it. It's about accepting that that's what's happening in your reality and asking yourself to be clear about what you would not be learning that you are learning if you hadn't had the health issue. How is it serving you? What are you learning from it? Accepting that will allow you more opportunity to shift it, but you have to understand why it's there.
In understanding of our biological aging process, telomeres are often viewed as indicators of the length and cellular health. How accurate is this understanding within the context of parallel realities? And can we shift into a reality where our telomeres are longer, healthier, and more robust?
Yes, and in fact, many of your scientists are studying this very idea now by studying certain species of bats whose telomeres never change. In other words, they never appear to age. A 1-year-old bat looks the same as a 15-year-old bat because their telomeres never change. So you are studying the idea of telomeres from a scientific point of view, but you can also understand, again, the idea of relevance in this. The telomeres will not change if you shift through a series of parallel realities where you are living more and more and more truly in the moment, because living in the moment creates the experience of less time and allows you to see yourself as age less. So it's about living in the moment in a certain way, and it is about that idea as to why the bat's telomeres never change. They are experiencing time in a very different way than you are. So the idea is to live more in the moment and find out that the result of that will be that your telomeres will stay longer because you're not really aging, because you're not experiencing as much time, because you're living in the timeless now.
And on the subject of bats, can you give us a little information about them as a spirit animal and also why they are so prevalent in terms of some of our health issues, at the present time?
Again, they form a kind of dichotomy symbol. The idea of being the only mammal that can fly is an expression of the potential in a positive way of how you can uplift yourselves and evolve yourselves in a way that makes you unique, to accelerate your vibration and ascend to greater heights. At the same time, they form the polarity of the idea of being ill at ease with yourselves, ill at ease with your true beings, not willing to live in the moment, but experiencing the concepts of anchoring into time and focusing on too many details that bring your vibration down. Things like lack of worthiness, regrets, self-judgments, which create the dark persona of the bat, symbolizing the idea of what you call evil, which is simply an anagram of live. So the idea is they perform the function, the symbolic function of the polarity of your potential to soar to great heights, or to also be representative of deep, deep darkness and the idea of attachment to negativity in life. Reality is all about telling a story, living a story, experiencing your unique story.
Yeah, well, once you get the hang of it, I guess, and you're experiencing more and more positive realities,
Yes,
then that at that point you may not feel such a strong need to escape from being physical.
of course not. Because again, it is a valid experience and a beautiful story.
Wow, it's very empowering.
Yes.
So this question is asking these questions after reading Masters of Limitation.
Yes.
First, are the parallel versions of Earth static moments of what we would consider infinitesimally small amounts of time, like a billionth of a second? Or are there different timelines based on differing probabilities? In other words, are they more like photos or videos? It seems like when you use the word frames, that they're more like photos, which we string together in our mind to create experiences of moving images that we think of as timelines. Is that correct?
Yes. You string the photos together to create the videos. You string the frames together to create the timeline. Yes, exactly so.
And how can we become more aware of the consciousness jumps we're making and be more conscious about choosing where we land, so to speak?
I suppose the answer would be the same as before. Follow the formula. The formula is the tool. Formula is the navigation. It is the rudder. Act on the formula. Understand it clearly and act on it precisely.
So
It's
the idea,
the answer is not different.
and so the idea about having a positive state of being involves, exploring when negative feelings come up and transmuting that into something that's more positive for you and investigating your belief systems.
Yes, but it's not that you're actually calling negative things positive things. It's that you're staying in a positive state so you can get a benefit from whatever happens, even if it was generated negatively.
And part of that is saying you don't necessarily know why this particular thing manifested, but if you can find a positive way to relate to it, that's where you're the most powerful in transmuting it.
If
Is
you
that true?
find a positive way to relate to it, then you do know why it manifested for that purpose, to give you that option, to give you that opportunity to do exactly that. That's why it manifested. As I've said before, even if you manifest something you objectively and neutrally don't prefer, that's vibrationally not compatible with who you prefer to be, you have to know it's still there for a reason. And the reason why it's there is to give you an opportunity to find out if you're going to react the same old negative way to it, or if you're going to take the different path of responding more positively to know that it can serve you by defining why it's there and using why it's there in a positive way. Again, for example, if nothing else, manifesting something you don't prefer makes it clearer, by contrast, what you do prefer. Staying in the state of mind that allows you to use something you don't prefer as a comparison to what you do prefer, so that it makes what you do prefer clearer, is a positive way to use what you don't prefer. And once you've used it that way, it will go away because you've learned the lesson. You've used it in the way that serves you in a positive sense, and thus you do know exactly why it manifested that way, to give you the opportunity to do just that.
And also, at what levels can free will be exercised?
At every level except the original agreement you made. In other words, you have made an agreement to experience certain themes, certain challenges, certain transformative opportunities. You will experience them. But how you go through that, how you resolve that, how you deal with it, how you respond to it, how you figure it all out is up to your free will. Again, the analogy of the hallway. You are a hallway. You will experience things only as the personality that you are, that you have chosen to be. and face the challenges you have chosen to face. But you can face them positively, negatively. You can face them happily or sad. You can walk, you can run, you can fly, you can crawl backwards or forwards, up or down, side to side. You can look in every doorway down the hallway. You can ignore them all. How you go down the hallway is up to your free will as a physical being. But going down the hallway is what you will do as your destiny, chosen by the free will of the spirit that you are, the higher self that you are from the non-physical realm. So you create your destiny by exercising your free will as a spirit. But once you have done so and determined the path you will walk, the hallway you will walk down, then that is your destiny. But you can use your free will as a living physical person to determine how you will experience that hallway, how you will be as the person that you have chosen to be.
And can we move to a parallel reality where our physical body has different characteristics than the reality we currently occupy? Or is there a physical law that impedes that?
No, you can do that, and there are many demonstrations of that. What you might call an instantaneous healing, a spontaneous healing, or a shift or spontaneous change that seemed to involve no process at all, is sometimes representative of the idea that you've shifted to a parallel reality where you are now truly a different person and a different body and a different past and a different future. So every change is a total change, but they don't necessarily seem like it because there isn't necessarily what you would call a space-time gap in the idea. You don't see an abrupt change from one state to another, but sometimes you do. One of the clearest examples that exists in your reality about this are what you might refer to as multiple personality disorders, where one personality may have a tumor, and when it shifts to a different personality, then the body exhibits no tumor at all. These things have been documented and recorded in your reality, and many different cases like this. That's an indication of shifting to a parallel reality in such a manner that there is no continuity between one frame and the next. So yes, it's possible. But is it relevant? That's always the question. Is it probable, according to your belief systems, that this will happen? And is it relevant for you for that to happen that way? Or is the process necessary? Is the gradual process something you will learn something from? So yes, it's possible, but is it probable or relevant is really the question. It's not about avoiding things. It's about allowing the process that is there to be necessary. You can always reduce the amount of process by examining your belief systems about what you believe you need to really learn a lesson in any given process. You can always streamline the process down to its minimum, but you can't always eliminate the process because process is the entire point of experiencing physical reality. Telling yourself a story, learning something from it, learning the moral of the story that you're telling yourself. So you can't necessarily completely eliminate the story, but often the story can shift in abrupt ways if it is relevant for the story to do so, if that's what will teach you the lesson that you chose to learn. But you can't use it to avoid the lesson.
And how is a person's spirit interacting with parallel versions of themselves?
In the same way that physical personalities do, because you have a soul for every personality. You have a spirit for every personality. So the idea is that you have individual people in individual realities with individual souls and spirits, all learning at the same time, and it all goes back to the oversoul. It's the oversoul level that experiences the simultaneity of all the incarnations, all the individual souls, all the individual spirits. A spirit is simply the collected experience of a soul in a particular personality framework. It's like, again, the idea is that the soul is the unfired, malleable clay. And when you have an experience, it turns that into the spirit, the fired clay, the ceramic of the experience. All of that is contained in the oversoul. But there are individual spirits, individual souls, individual higher minds for every individual physical personality. As you shift billions of times per second, not only are you shifting the idea of the physical persona, but the soul and the spirit and the higher mind that goes with it.